Care Chats. Care Chats with Tanya, Mark, and Nick. Care Chats. Care Chats with Tanya, Mark, and Nick. Grab a mug of care and join us for some Care Chats with Tanya, Mark, and Nick.
Yes, please. Hi, everyone. It's Nick and Tanya Mark, and we're here today. We were warming up and warming ourselves up and talking about the topic of allyship.
That's right, allyship.
What does that even mean to you, Nick? What does that mean to you today here in these turbulent times we are navigating?
When I think about allyship, I think about relationships. You know, that allyship, first and foremost, I think is a kind of relationship. And there can be lots of different people that you have different kinds of relationships in your life that you have allyship with. But you don't always have to have allyship with someone you have a relationship with. But I think that first and foremost, in today's world, that it's about relationship and connection. And, you know, first it's about, you know, connecting with someone that you want to build some kind of bridge with, you know, getting to know about each other, learn about each other. And oftentimes there's either differences, you know, whether that be political differences or identity differences, or differences in strengths and tools, you know, that you and I, we have a friendship, but we also have an allyship. And you and I both have different skills and tools and practices we bring to the work that we do together. And we sort of lean on each other in different ways when we know that there's something that you have a strength or a tool that I may not have access to for one reason or another. It's just not my strength, that you can come in and be like, I'm going to do this for both of us. And vice versa. You know, there may be something that I offer or I have access to, or I have a strength or more knowledge in or something like that. And I bring that in and I'm going to share that for both of us. Right. So it's about sharing knowledge, sharing skills, sharing tools. Those are some of the things that I think about when I think about allyship. What about you?
Oh, just thank you for naming that, and naming how it appears in regards to connection and what that looks like. Allyship to me, when I hear that today, right here, right now, I hear practice, I hear action, and that can be internal, external, a combination of both. But it really is saying like, to be in allyship with someone is to first be, I think of what does it mean to be in allyship with ourselves? Are we living authentically, walking our talk, living our values? And how are we practicing that, right? How are we practicing allyship with ourselves, with our connection to spirit or source or whatever that might be for you? How are we practicing that? And then taking a look at, like, what does this practice look like on the daily? I believe allyship can be considered a tool in our toolkit, and that we can, if we choose to, access it on the daily. And it can be towards ourselves if that's the only capacity we have. And if we have capacity, we can extend it out to others. So how can we be of service? Where can we be of service in our day? Could that be, I think of things such as such as very sweet little text message to someone that just kind of crossed your mind, right? That maybe, you don't have regular connection with, but they just did. And you're just like, hey, just thinking of you and sending you goodness. Or recognizing in the neighborhood that you live in that maybe there might be some cleanup needed, a little bit of sweeping or raking or picking up some trash. Random acts of kindness. I have a mentor of mine that really early on in my recovery, that was a medicine that she invited me to practice, were random acts of kindness, because it's being of service. And intention, I will say this, intention really matters behind what we're doing. So yeah, actions and tools, volunteering somewhere, holding space for someone, tending, there's all tending to the care of someone's pets, or, I don't know, putting the grocery cart back into the grocery cart fucking compartment at the grocery store, rather than leaving it as a barrier for someone else's parking.
Yeah.
There are myriads and multitudes of possibilities of allyship. I also believe that as an action, it's recognizing that allyship isn't always like, oh, let me just go do the things that aligned with. Perhaps it could also mean like, learning to be in cultures, around other cultures, with other people, places, things that are not comfortable for us, getting out of our comfort zone, right? And understanding like from a larger lens that showing up, right? Showing up to a cultural event, to a church service, to, there's all kinds of stuff can also be allyship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And educating ourselves, I think, is what you had, kind of also sprinkled in there, that when we do that, we're educating ourselves of,
Yeah,
around,
yeah,
because differences are superpowers. We just come from fucking systems that really do not want us to be aware of that. They
yeah.
are. Our differences are our superpowers, and it doesn't make us any weaker or stronger than the other. It's just that we all have superpowers. And when we can come together and be like, yeah, let's let our superpowers shine, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Mhm.
Before I go into like the power of difference and self-education about that, I want to go back to what you were saying about intention, because I thought of that as you were talking about it. And I think that one of the, for me, one of the hallmarks of allyship is having positive intention for the person that you are in relationship with,
Hmm.
right? That we're not in allyship for our own sake, that we're not in allyship
Gosh,
because
shit.
we're going to make money from it or we're going
Woo.
to get something from it, but because we are wanting to be helpful and supportive and
Because we care.
because we care. Yeah. And because when we have positive intention and that when we support others, we support the whole, this
Woo,
idea
Ashe.
of
That's right.
all the different parts need to be working together. And when all the parts are the most healthy, then the whole is going to be the most healthy.
That's right. Yeah.
But when
Yeah.
one part is sick or ailing or weak, then we are not as healthy or sick or strong as we can be. So when we bring, as I was saying, when we bring our tools that maybe someone else doesn't have to the table and we share them,
Hmm.
then we are helping make the whole strong and supportive. And it all starts with positive intention,
Yeah.
that we're holding that
Intention.
intention not just for ourselves, but for everyone.
Yes. Yes. And also, this isn't to say like, I also feel like, what comes along with allyship, and probably with all of our care tools that we talk about, is there's going to be shadowy aspects that show up. We're
Mm-hmm.
talking about being in connection, being in connection with others, our planet, being of service. Like all of these things are going to come with opportunities of growth where shadow may show up. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like avoidance, bypassing, and whatever shows up around that, that's part of the gig too, right?
Yeah.
Is that because what's happening is it's saying like, you're answering a call to somehow be of service. So you're moving forward with whatever that might look like. And along the way, it's all, boop, here's a little opportunity, a little disruption. And then that becomes an opportunity of growth for all of the energies involved. And it does impact the greater picture, the collective, as you speak to.
Yeah.
So how we choose to navigate that also matters. So, it is I think the intention part of it is so important because it does have impact, as well as, you know, um, the navigation of realizing that these opportunities are going to, shadow is going to come and knock on the door, because it's life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's going to come and say hello, and how we respond to that, I also feel, is an opportunity there of, collective healing and collective care.
Yeah, I think that that's kind of the other side of the coin, going back to what we were talking about, the power of difference, right?
Mm,
So when there's difference, we can choose to respond in two ways. We can either let fear or confusion or ignorance or anxiety or any of those challenging emotions say, I'm going to have resistance to that, or that's not me, or you know, whatever the reaction to that is. Or we can look at it as like, oh, here's an opportunity for me to learn about something different. You know, if I'm in allyship with someone who has a different identity, a different life experience, et cetera, where I can learn about that. And I can also bring my own life experience into that and maybe support that person in a way that they didn't see before. You know, and I think about
Yeah.
this idea of nature and how we look at, you know, farming. Like we know that
Mm,
monocultures growing the same plant in the same area in the same ground for year after year after year after year is not good for the planet, and it depletes the soil.
mm,
Whereas if we have a variety of plants either in the same area, or we plant one plant in this ground this season, and then next year we plant a different plant, and the ways that the plants, the difference, the variety supports the earth and supports the cycle,
yeah. Yeah.
right? So there's power in difference in that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing I was thinking about too, in like, because I think it's important, like when we talk about like these types of tools, like we're also just naming and acknowledging the shadowy aspects, is that checking ourselves around being performative, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think you talked about it a little bit earlier about, checking the intention and like, am I doing this because I'm trying to get a gold star or some type of acknowledgement, or to be seen? Because that intention can also come with its own opportunities of growth. So I think checking that alignment and intention around where it feels good to be in practice and allyship is important too. By the way, tending to our own land, doing our
Mm-hmm.
own gardening is a form of allyship with the planet.
Mm-hmm.
It's saying like, hi, I appreciate that, the bones of my home exist here and I want to take care of the land.
Mm-hmm.
Growing your own food, you know, can is also a form of allyship.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I also think it's important to bring in self compassion and
Ashe. Yes.
patience for
Ooh
ourselves
la
when we
la.
are in allyship, because
Yes.
I think a lot of people avoid allyship around communities or topics that feel too different from them because they're
Mm,
afraid of making a mistake, of offending someone, um, that kind of thing.
yeah.
And I think that so I'm I think that part of, you know, the popularity around cancel culture and our culture these days is what feeds that. And I think that there needs to be more nuanced looks at, well, is there a way that we don't just cancel someone right away? Can we
Mm,
learn to have compassion for the offender so that the offender can also have compassion for themselves? And then how do we call them in
right.
instead of exiling them
Right.
to just say, well, they messed up, we're just going to get rid of them? You know,
Right.
that's not allyship, that's not about relationship. So how can we bring in compassion and forgiveness as well
Mm,
to these relationships so that we can learn from when mistakes do happen, from when ruptures do happen? How do we
right.
heal them? How do we repair them? And how do we get stronger as a result of that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the compassion and grace and understanding and forgiveness that you're referring to, is that these are all ingredients, right? So if we take allyship as like this idea of, this is the medicine and energy we're talking about, these are all very supportive ingredients that we're invited to explore,
Mm-hmm.
right? And to be curious about, because the truth is, like, when we are in this type of action and in connection with whether it's our planet, people, places, things, spaces, places, there are going to be ruptures and disruptions because it's part of living, right? So can we also bring these additional ingredients with us, because they're
Yeah.
very important, and I also want to name, like, sometimes these conversations can feel like heavy in nature, and that's cool. And that allyship is also very fun and joyful.
Yeah.
It's really neat to go like be a part of an experience, like I'm thinking of like when they have like beach cleanup or park cleanup things, and you show up to something that, the common denominator that you have in common with that group is that you were called to somehow tend to the planet. And so you might be walking down the beach having a lovely chat while you're cleaning up with a stranger. And maybe that was the exact conversation and space holding that needed to take place while you're also tending to the planet.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing to remember in allyship, because there's usually some common vision or goal or value that's bringing those people together in the allyship. And so when things start to get crunchy or uncomfortable or painful or weird or whatever, I think it can be good to come back to like, what is our value? What is our shared goal? Why are we here? To come back to that and have that be a guiding principle.
Yeah. And a shared goal doesn't have to, a shared goal can be a shared goal. That doesn't mean we have to be all like little robots and all do it the same way, right? We can have superpowers, right? And abilities, and it's not a one size fits all gig here for this. It's about how do we make space for the fact that we may all do things very differently, and that's super badass. You know what I mean?
And I hear Pluto agreeing with you in the background.
Oh yeah, we're getting a lot of dog confirmation that the pack, right? Dog medicine is the pack, the community.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. So do we want to share with our listeners a little bit about how we've been working with allyship in our community?
Yeah, that feels good. Like what as Queer Spirit, what has Queer Spirit been up to?
Yeah. So
how are we practicing that? Yeah.
So this is not something we've been talking about a whole lot in the podcast, but if you've shown up to our care circles or you're on our bulletin, we've been talking about how we've taken on interns through the UCLA Behavioral Health Support Specialist Certificate Program in the last couple months. And, some of the folks there do identify as allies to the queer community. And so we've been inviting them in, calling them in to learn and offer care and support. And they've been doing research on resources for us and also bringing what they've been learning out to their community and to support their communities and do some educating in those ways too.
Yeah, it's been really beautiful. Allyship has been a chapter, I think, for all of us to explore that have been in that are in the program, and how Queer Spirit is supporting those in the program, because it's also invited up this internal journey of, well, what is it? What is allyship to begin with? And how do I practice it, or how can I practice it? And, to witness a person's journey around being able to look at that, right? Because then what ends up happening is that I think when we start to look at how to be of service or be of allyship outside of ourselves, we're also kind of looking at this idea of, it's kind of like the thought kind of just like came in and came out of this idea. We're taking a look at ourselves and saying like how do we also look at our biases, our privilege, right? Because we all hold those, no matter what. In our identities, there are aspects of that exist. So I think that when we're also called to be of service and allyship, we may also look at opportunities on how to shed some of that yucca mucka within ourselves,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been really beautiful to work with. What I appreciated is that it's a variety of lived experiences, and how watching people explore and participate in allyship has just been it's been an honor, and we're really lucky. Yeah.
So if you're listening and you maybe are not sure if you identify as queer, that's okay. We are also welcoming allies into our community as well, to support and receive support, and to educate and to receive education. And, I think it's important now more than ever. I mean, that's a phrase we keep saying a lot right now, but I think it's true. It's important now more than ever to really look at what are our common goals and how do we use our differences as strengths to move forward, instead of pushing people apart and exiling them, because we as a human race are not going to get very far if we just keep exiling other humans.
Yeah, I think so. We're being, these are some deep, deep invitations for us to look at, allyship, community, being of service, taking care of ourselves, taking care of our loved ones, and taking care of others, and taking care of our world. So
Yeah.
thank you all for joining us. We would love to see you all in a circle. We do host these virtual free care circles where we explore breathwork and movement and sound. We have a circle on the first Saturday of the month at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, the third Sunday of the month at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and the fourth Sunday of the month is for our people of color, people of the global majority community, and that is at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on the fourth Sunday of each month. And we would love to see you. Come be in a circle, come be in community, come be an allyship.
Yeah. Yeah, we know that you can partake in those community practices here on our podcast where they're also recorded, but we also would love to have you join us live if you're able to, because there is stuff that doesn't get recorded at the beginning and at the end, and you can really connect with other people in community and yeah, cultivate connection, cultivate allyship, meet some new people, maybe a neighbor, maybe someone on the other side of the planet. And yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, y'all, and you can most certainly catch any of our care chats here in the podcast place. And guess what? Allyship can also be sharing an episode of a podcast with someone that
Mm-hmm.
perhaps it's a topic that you're like, ooh, maybe you want to send it to a homie
Mm-hmm.
or to someone that you think might benefit from that. So we love when y'all share our episodes and with others. We love that you come back to them as needed, and we just really want to continue to invite you all to take care of yourselves, that we continue to take care of each other. And we just appreciate y'all so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for listening, and we hope you will listen again soon.
Care chats with Tanya, Mark, and Nick.